Hey ladies, today is Tuesday, January 4th, 2022. This is my first video in about, I guess, roughly 2 months, a little less than 2 months. My first video since giving birth to my son. Um, and I did post some videos about that ordeal, and I just wanted to update everyone and let them know what happened and what's going on now and how I'm doing and how we're doing. Because it was an unexpected situation. So if you have watched or follow me or watched any of my previous videos, or my last two videos, so I unexpectedly did deliver my son at 32 weeks and 3 days, pregnant. I developed severe preeclampsia very quickly, very suddenly, out of nowhere, which is apparently how it happens a lot. So I can't stress enough about keeping up with prenatal visits and all of that, because my preeclampsia was actually diagnosed at a routine doctor's visit. I went in and my blood pressure was running high, but I was having anxiety for some reason. I think my body knew, even though I didn't know. I think clearly my body knew what was going on. And so my blood pressure, all of a sudden, which had been great my entire pregnancy, had just started to suddenly shoot up when I was getting my blood pressure taken. And so it was high, and that prompted the doctors to do some blood work. And it was during that blood work that they found out that I had elevated liver enzyme levels. And so, um, yeah, so coupled with the high blood pressure, that is preeclampsia. But the thing about it is my blood pressure almost immediately started going back down and went back to a normal level. But what wasn't going down was the liver enzyme levels. So that was really what was my biggest complication. Oddly enough, my blood pressure was pretty good after that initial spike, and I credit that spike because if not for that spike in my blood pressure, they would not have caught the elevated liver levels when they did. So it was almost like my body was like forcing it on just so they could catch that, because immediately after that, my blood pressure went down and went down to normal. Even times below normal, was actually low at times. But that's an ordeal, and I documented all that, and I videoed a lot of what was going on at the time, and I did a video after that. It's still in the hospital, and quite honestly, I don't want to relive it. So what I want to talk to you about now is what happened after, and how I'm feeling and how I'm dealing with it. Because since I did give birth at 32 weeks and 3 days, I did have a premature baby, which is something that I don't think you generally expect, and I did not expect, because up until that point, my pregnancy was really healthy, and so I had a premature baby. And having your child in a NICU is something that is really hard, and again, unexpected. And I think, I always try to be honest and open and talk about what really, I'm going to say what it is, whether people like it or not, and how I experienced it, whether people like it or not. And the reality is, I don't think people talk about this because, it's not expected to have a child in a NICU. And, I have so many feelings about that. And just an update, he is no longer in the NICU. Matter of fact, he'll be 2 months old tomorrow. He hasn't been in the NICU for a while. He was actually in the NICU for 3 weeks, which is good. Wasn't a long time. Um, it I found out since that he could have been in there up until my due date, which just passed last week because my due date was December 28th. So he could have been in the NICU up until then, maybe even later if there were complications, but he did phenomenal. I will first start off with that. He did phenomenally. He was amazing. He was born at 4 pounds and 4 ounces. He was 16 inches long. And he just, he everything that he needed to do as far as breathing. Unfortunately, they had to put him on oxygen and intubate him and put him on a CPAP machine, and all those scary machines and tubes in your baby is not what you want to see, but that's unfortunately part of the NICU. And he was eating through a feeding tube initially, and listen, it's all very scary and I don't know what the words are for it. But it's not what you want and it's not what you initially expect, but he did really well. So I'm very fortunate in that regard because he is healthy, he is home, he spent 3 weeks there. He does have acid reflux and he does have some, trouble feeding. Preemies sometimes have that, like they have to coordinate breathing and eating, which newborns have that anyway, but like preemies is like breathing and eating. They have to remember to breathe. And that was one of the things, he was working on, but he got it down clearly and they let him out the NICU. And so, but that's scary as well, because when I was in the hospital, the initial threat was to me, really. Preeclampsia is overall a threat to the mother. And postpartum preeclampsia is like completely a threat to the mother, but preeclampsia overall is a threat to the mother. And then to save the mother, the only option is to deliver the baby. And so then it becomes like a threat, a risk to the baby, because if your child is premature, then you're like, okay, well, now, after you're no longer in risk, you have to wonder about that. So I have a lot of feelings about it. And, no one's to blame. Clearly, preeclampsia, they don't even know what causes it or why it happens. But it made me really angry. Very angry. And, I have all types of feelings that I've been working through, that I've been processing, that I'm actually seeing a therapist to work through. But like anger, shame, guilt, and no, it wasn't my fault. No, there was nothing I could have done differently. And no, I shouldn't have any shame about it. But I felt so angry at my body for not doing what I felt it was supposed to do. I said, well, why didn't you do what you were supposed to do? And to do what I was supposed to do means protect the baby and being able to carry him to term. And I don't know, and this is irrational, but that's how I feel. That's how I felt. That's how I kind of feel. And, trying to understand those feelings, which again, like I said, nothing I could have done differently. And then maybe my body did protect him by getting him out because he wasn't safe. He wasn't safe there, right? Given what was going on. And my liver enzymes were just going, and eventually that would have become a problem with my liver. And, preeclampsia can cause organ damage if untreated and death. Well, this is, scary. And so, and strokes and seizures and other stuff. And I just, I just don't really still believe that it happened. It's such a weird thing. It came on so suddenly. I was not prepared. I didn't have anything. I didn't have a hospital bag. When I had my first child, my daughter, I did a video about what was in my hospital bag. Then I did a video about what I used, what I actually needed. And this time I'm going to tell you, I didn't have a hospital bag. But I will tell you the things that I absolutely needed and the things honestly, the only things you do need. Now, pack as much as you want, whatever makes you feel comfortable. But I had my charger. You need your charger. You need a long charger. Buy a long charger, a long cord charger. And my charger, I just happen to have my charger, and as you can see, I have glasses on. I wore contacts to the doctor's office. I happen to have my glasses and my contacts case with me. I didn't have any saline solution, and if you wear contacts, you know what that is. I didn't have my headscarf. Did not have my headscarf. So that was annoying. But the things I needed the charger. I needed the charger, and I needed my contacts. And my glasses, because I didn't want to be in there for that time wearing my contacts all that time, not being able to take them out. And I would have really liked to have had a headscarf, and because I didn't have my headscarf, I ended up wearing one of those mesh surgical caps on my head. So I did have that, but it wasn't the same. But I did have that. Um, and the only other thing I guess I really wish I would have had, two other things: deodorant. Hospital gave me toiletries, toothbrush, toothpaste, soap, shampoo if you type to wash your hair, conditioner, even some chapstick, eye mask, all of that in their little toiletry case, but they don't have deodorant. So, it would have been nice to have that. And some Depends, because I knew, and I did use it with my first pregnancy, and it was amazing to have the Depends, because I love Depends for postpartum bleeding. Um, may sound weird, but they're so much better than other things. I did not have that, so I did use the other things that the hospital gives, which work. Listen, they work. Which are the mesh underwear and the pads and the chucks and all of that. And you can even put pads and chucks inside. It depends if you have them, but hopefully you're not bleeding that heavy, because then that's a problem. But the Depends are so much more convenient and more comfortable for postpartum bleeding. So I didn't have them. I had them at home, but again, I wasn't expecting to be there. So I had them, and I bought to put in my hospital bag. But once I got home, I was able to switch to them. But it would have been nice to have them in the hospital. But not absolutely necessary. So that's it. I didn't even have a change. I didn't have a change of clothes because my son was born early. He did not come home right away. So of course I did not have a car seat. I didn't have his outfit to come home, but I was able to bring that later. So it's weird because I wore the same thing out that I wore in, and I was pregnant when I wore it in, and I'm not pregnant when I wore it out. So, but that's really all you need is, the bare essentials. Um, but overall, I wanted to talk about how it is to have a preemie. Like I said, it's very scary to have your child in the NICU and to deal with that, and to not know when the baby's coming home or what's going to happen, and have other people taking care of him, and not really feeling like you're bonding, or that your child, because that was one of the things, was like, I don't know this baby. When I brought him home and he was 3 weeks old, it was just like, I don't know him. That's how I felt. I was visiting him, but I didn't really feel like I knew, him. Like, you start to learn your baby, and I just didn't know him. And I was like, I have to get to know him by taking care of him all the time, not 4 hours at a time, but like all the time. And so that was weird. That feeling after getting past the fear, when it was like, he's okay. That was a weird thing for me. Another weird thing for me was, and this is so petty and minor, but I just thought it was interesting, was, black babies, not all the time, but sometimes are born very light and do not have any color to them. So both my children were born very, very fair, to the point that you might not know they were black children if you did not know who their mother and father were or are. And so my son's born really, really light. And one day I come to the NICU and he's dark, or he's dark, and he's dark, getting darker. And it wasn't that I didn't expect him to get dark. I knew he would get darker. I mean, come on. But I just didn't know he would do it without me. So it was weird to have him changing and have him, growing, developing, and me not really seeing it. Like I came to the NICU and he was already starting to turn darker, and it was like, well, wait, when I was just here, you were light, and now you're dark. It was just a weird transition. I tried to get to the NICU every day, but I really wasn't able to. I didn't. It wasn't until the last week that he was in there that I was there every day because I also have a 2-year-old. So trying to juggle between being there with him every day and being with her was happening with my husband, and we were alternating. He would go one day, I would go the next day. And so, like, there were just changes happening with the baby that, I wasn't seeing. And that made me, sad and feel bad because, listen, it's just a tough situation. So you're going to have a lot of emotions. And I hope no one goes through this. But if you've gone through it, or if you do go through it, and, then you'll understand what I'm saying. Like, I felt like I let him down. I felt like I let myself down. And I didn't. It was just irrational. Like I said, I was angry. I was jealous of other people who pregnancies didn't turn out like this. I still am. I'm going to be honest. Like I have a friend who her baby's due in April, and her pregnancy's going beautifully and wonderfully and healthy, and I'm happy for that. But I'm like, why couldn't mine? Why didn't this one go that way? And so I get jealous of that because I lost that experience. I lost the last 2 months of my pregnancy. I lost, and so there's a grieving process to it too. And yes, my baby is healthy and was doing well, but I would always say he was doing better than I was doing. I was struggling and I was not doing well, having all these emotions, trying to mentally, also dealing with blood pressure fluctuations because after getting out of the hospital, my blood pressure shot back up, but then came back down and then was finally controlled with medication. But the 6-week period after giving birth, you're still at risk for preeclampsia coming back, even if you had it. Postpartum preeclampsia is actually more dangerous. And so I sat there for 6 weeks wondering if I was going to die, if something was going to happen in my body. I wasn't going to know because I don't know, because when I was diagnosed with preeclampsia to begin with, I felt fine. I didn't feel symptomatic at all. So I'm sitting here wondering, oh my God, is something happening? And I'm not feeling any symptoms. So so it was a fun 6-week period that I kind of just got out of because he's 8 weeks old now. So so I sat there for the entire time wondering. Couldn't do a video, couldn't talk to you, tell you, because I'm just in my head wondering what's going on. Thankfully, I made it out of that. But, so between the physical aspects and me trying to heal, there was all the mental stuff. And then because my son was in the NICU, I decided to delay my maternity leave. And so I was still working. So I decided to delay it until he got out of the NICU. So it was this period where I'm working and, going through the blood pressure and physical fluctuations after everything, and, feeling emotionally just not okay, and running back and forth to the NICU. It was hell. It was not fun at all. And even now, thankfully, the NICU part is over. Um, you know, and I am on maternity leave now because the day he got out of the hospital, I was like, okay, I'm on maternity leave. But it still is just the trauma of the situation, the trauma of the delivery has left me honestly with like PTSD. Like, it was such a traumatic birth, feeling like and being told how badly things were progressing, or regressing, or whatever would be the correct way to say that. Like my liver enzymes were getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And, at one point my OB said to me if things didn't progress really quickly, they're going to have to do a C-section because I was in danger of bleeding out. So I was literally being told that I was going to possibly die soon. Yeah, that's super traumatic. And so, so yeah, it's over with. But just going through all of that at the time, sorry, straight here. Just going through all that at the time, it just was really, and even though it's over, there's still just this part that dealt with all that trauma. And when you're in it, you're just in survival mode. You can't even process the feelings. You're just like, hey, I gotta survive. So you can't even process everything that's going on. And then once it's over, it's like, okay, you get this rush of emotions of everything. And then it's like, well, now what do I do with it? How do I deal with this? How do I move on from this? And that's the part that I'm trying to figure out now. But yeah, like I said, I'm trying to figure out. I don't have all the answers. I do have postpartum depression, and I do think that the situation is what triggered it for me. Like I said, it was super traumatic, and not something that I should be ashamed about. But I want to be honest and open about it because, as women, we don't always talk about these things. We only talk about the beautiful parts of childbirth and the baby and being a mother and all of that. But we need to talk about some of these other things. Now, in my case, I did have this major complication. But yeah, so now I'm trying to work through all of these emotions and really trying to figure out, get back to me. Matter of fact, I want to be a better me than what I was before all this happened, because it was a while that I was like, I don't even know who I am. It was just getting through the day, just getting through. And now I have a newborn. So, if you have a newborn and a toddler, I'm still kind of in survival mode because it's like just getting through. He's a little more fragile, I guess, than a normal newborn, even though newborns are fragile. He's doing really well with his weight, though. He's a big boy at this point. I don't have his official weight, but, I think now he's well over 10 pounds. But being born at 4 pounds, 4.4 pounds, he's doing really well. He eats a lot, I am breastfeeding him, but it's a combination of breastfeeding and bottle feeding him breast milk. And I'll do a separate video at some point about breastfeeding a preemie and all of that, because it's not the same as just breastfeeding a normal just breastfeeding a full-term baby, because breastfeeding is actually a lot of work. And so preemies, can't just breastfeed around the clock like a full-term baby can. But so I just wanted to update, and I will continue to update as I can. But just wanted to, let you know I'm alive. We're alive. We're thriving. We're surviving. We're hopefully to be thriving. So I don't think I've ever said his name, but so my son's name is Elijah Grayson. So, definitely was unexpected. I also didn't know I was having a boy. So he came in and, was like, hey, I'm here. Also, I think a feeling that, I was actually hoping to have another girl. I know this is silly, but I wanted my daughter to have a sister so badly. And so when Elijah pops out being a boy, I'm like somewhat disappointed, and I'm trying to get over that. But I think what also makes it harder is like, how do you get over, like, I know he will likely be my last baby. because I can't put myself through that again. I can't put myself through the possibility of developing preeclampsia again. And once you have it, it is possible and likely that it'll happen again, and it could happen earlier next time, and there could be more complications to the baby and or to me, and I can't put myself through that again. And so I don't plan to have any more babies. And that's sad for me because I hadn't decided that. I feel like that decision was made for me. Like, I didn't consciously say, hey, I'm done. Now, maybe I wouldn't have had any more children if this didn't happen. But again, my decision was like, I feel like it was taken. I feel like this situation created something where it's like, oh, you don't have any more children because, like, I'm terrified now. Even though you can have children after you have preeclampsia. So I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just talking about, my situation. And, I've met some wonderful people who've had preeclampsia. I met a woman, she's had preeclampsia 3 times. All 3 of her pregnancies, she had 3 babies. Each one she had preeclampsia. All 3 were in the NICU. And I say, God bless you, but I can't, Um, I can't imagine doing that again. But anyway, I don't want to dwell. I just wanted to share, and I've shared. But if anybody has a child in the NICU, before I go, I just want to share a couple of organizations that have been awesome to me with dealing with the NICU and the preemie aspect of this. One is called the Graham Foundation, and one is called Hand to Hold. And they both have tremendous resources. They have peers that you can talk to who've been through this. They have support groups. So if you need anything, those are definitely places to reach out to. I mean, you can reach out to me too, but those are definitely places, lots of resources. People have been through it. And so, because before this, I didn't know about it, I actually found them through Google. Like, my hospital didn't connect me with them or any of that. I found out through Google. So, knowing this and finding this has been really helpful to me because they have online support groups and everything, Facebook groups. There are Facebook groups as well. So just wanted to share that, and I will continue to update, and I'll talk to you all soon. But and Happy New Year and Merry Christmas, since I missed Christmas and I missed Thanksgiving too. So happy Thanksgiving. Roll it all up in one. And stay safe, ladies. This virus is still out there. And be safe. And I will talk to you soon.